Hey there, welcome back to my very original series where we take a look at everything, mostly Nintendo games with a few major third-party games thrown in, that the Nintendo Switch 2 has to offer since the last time I made one of these videos. My last video was not very good because I was completely unscripted, so my thoughts were jumbled and I had no idea what I was talking about. So this time, we're gonna do it right. I fully wrote down all my thoughts about all of these games, and we'll go in order of when they were released chronologically. Before we get into the new games, I think I need to tie up some loose ends from my last video because I barely brushed over Welcome Tour and Mario Party. For Welcome Tour, honestly, just go watch the fantastic video by Icarus. He said way more than I ever could about this game. As for Super Mario Party Jamboree, I kinda glazed over the Nintendo Switch 2 version of Super Mario Party Jamboree in my last video, which was for a reason. 1, I was unscripted. 2, this so-called video game is such a disgrace to games as a whole that Nintendo should have never released this violation of my money, time, and sanity. I felt it needed a fully scripted video with my collected thoughts to truly do this trash heap justice. So buckle up, chuckle nuts. Dad's gonna get a little mad. To start, this menu it throws you into is just awful. Like, really, Nintendo? You couldn't have made this all one cohesive game? Instead, you had to make it go between this and the original? Which, may I remind you, is capped at the Switch One's frame rate and resolution because it literally is the original game. And it's not like the new stuff can take you to the old stuff, it's missing a ton of content from the original. Things like pro rules or achievements and other side modes are not in Jamboree TV because these two menu options, for all intents and purposes, are different games, which means the original is exactly the same. No Switch 2 enhancement in sight. Like, come on, Nintendo, you can't even give us the enhancements of the Switch 2 hardware when playing the original game? There is no excuse to why we can't just play it in 1440p or 4K. Is it that hard to use your upscaling tech that you have in this thing, or was that too much of an ask? Alright, let's actually go see the new content now in the Jamboree TV pipe. The main menu puts up the facade of a ton of content, but I assure you, there is very little new. These modes should have just been islands on the base game, or heck, options in the menu. First, I should mention the minigames, which there are only 14 new ones, which is a pity number considering how fast I got bored of all the games in the base game. But I have to admit, these new games are probably the best part of the whole package. Some of the new mouse games are actually really fun. Party mode is mostly unchanged, with the aforementioned remove modes now replaced with 2 new modes, Frenzy and Tag Team, which are great additions as a way to mix up your experience. Frenzy is fast-paced and intense, and makes the whole game like actually fast. And Tag Team is fun if you're playing with someone who is semi-decent at existing. Bowser Live is pretty much useless without a camera because without it, you literally just play minigames where you scream into the mic, and that gets boring after 4 seconds. And finally, Carnival Coaster is just that one banana boat game from the original, but you play on a rail shooter in between the minigames, which is just incredibly forgettable. And that's it. That's the whole expansion. $20. $20! This is just awful value. It seems to be a pretty consistent thing with Nintendo nowadays. It's a colossal waste of time and money, especially with the slim new minigame selection and no new boards. This should have been a free upgrade. If you're looking to pick up a Switch 2 or already have one, skip this game at all costs. Yet somehow, it's not the worst DLC that they've released this year. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Alright, Drag and Drive. When you first boot up this so-called Drag X Drive, you are greeted with a faceless dialogue box that shows you the ropes, and as soon as this game gave me free control, I knew I was in for a bad time. The controls in this game just don't function, and it makes me mad trying to actually play because I'm fighting with the controls instead of the other team. If I had to sum up how they feel, I'd say they feel stiff yet slippery at the same time, because half the time it feels like I can't move where I want to go, and then when I actually get going, I can't control myself. And oh my god, the delay. The delay. Sometimes my Joy-Cons just randomly desync from each other, so I end up just going in one direction because it didn't track the other one properly. Furthermore, whenever you try to shoot in this game, it only actually shoots the ball like 2 seconds after you flick, which makes it frustrating to actually shoot accurately. But when the controls play ball, you can have an okay time. Like, nothing amazing, but not Jamboree TV. Sometimes the controls aren't your main obstacle, trying to play the game is. So I boot this game up on a peak Friday night, thinking that there would be maybe a good few mini lobbies in there. No. There was one one lobby.
Go find Dr. Wowie.
The only lobby online had one person in it, and then he ended up leaving about a minute after I joined. So I was the only guy on this game that night. For 20 American Washingtons, it's so not worth it, and it's dead as a dodo bird, but you can muster some fun out of it if you actually find people to play with. Well, DragonDrawz was a little bit of a doozy, but luckily 2 weeks later, we were blessed with Kirby in the Forgotten Land plus Star-Crossed World. Ah yes, Kirby in the Forgotten Land, one of the best 3D platformers to grace the Switch. Fantastic level design, wonderful music, well-hidden collectibles, insane abilities, Souls-like combat system featuring curb and ring. What's not to like? Well, one glaring issue was due to the Switch's aging hardware. It's the fact that the frame rate was capped at 30 FPS, which if I'm being honest, I got really used to over my playtime, but after seeing emulator footage of the game running at 60 FPS, I could never go back. So, for the second of Nintendo's Switch 1 games with extra content stapled to it, aka Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games, not counting these, they updated Kirby in the Forgotten Land, promising a new story adventure and improved performance. Now, Jamboree's upgrade was hot garbage considering the $20 upcharge for almost nothing new. So did Nintendo learn from their past mistakes and make the Star-Crossed World expansion worth the money? Sort of. Kind of. Not really. The enhanced power the Switch 2 offers makes the game run like butter and look absolutely astounding. But the Star-Crossed World part is where it gets interesting. While the new story mode is a cute new pack of 12 levels to explore, each based on a pre-existing theme from the base game, with 3 new mouthful modes that are fun to use, the full experience only being around 4 to 6 hours without the boss rush and figure collecting aspects is a little lackluster, because this game on its own is incredible and really could have used a proper DLC with new worlds and copy abilities, or heck, even a full-blown sequel, which I guess is not entirely out of the cards. For there only being 12, these new levels are remarkable, not only for the creative ways the new and old mouthful modes are used, but with the extra legroom the Switch 2 provides, these levels look gorgeous. Like if you stand in one place, boom, that's a wallpaper right there. Even though there's new levels, a reskinned boss, a new harder boss rush, I still don't think that $20 is quite worth it for the amount of content on offer. Maybe with some new level themes, some new abilities, and some strange extras, like maybe some more mini-games, I don't know, it could have been worth it. Sure, 60 FPS is great, but at $20, I really don't know how to make it worth it. As it stands, I think that $10 would be well worth it for the content on offer, especially for first-time players. But as it stands, it's still a substantially better deal than Jamboree TV. They should be paying me to take that. Now, the third-party selection this month was relatively light, with NFL 26 getting a key card and Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar getting a Nintendo Switch 2 edition, as well as the big release of Hollow Knight Silksong. As for Switch Online, we only got one game this month. Chibi Robo for the GameCube. Finally, Nintendo mentions this series again outside of a certain spin-off. Could there be a new game? Probably not. Besides that, they didn't announce anything this month for NSO. September and October were relatively dry, with only 3 major releases: Donkey Kong Bonanza, Emerald Rush, Pokémon Legends ZA, and Super Mario Galaxy 1+2, which is a Switch 1 game, so I will not count it. As for the other 2, I didn't buy them because of the absolute corporate greed on display. Like, I can't deny that Nintendo is a greedy company. They definitely are. But these 2 pieces of code have such little content and effort put into them, they should literally be illegal. Starting with Donkey Kong because it's slightly less egregious. Why is this $20? You added 1 island and some new mission mode. That's basically the same amount of free content we got back in Mario Odyssey. Anyone remember Luigi's Balloon World? It pretty much had the same amount of depth and replayability as this $20 DLC. And Balloon World was free! This DLC adds the Emerald Rush mode and some new costumes and DK Island. I just don't see the value in this. Like back in Mario Odyssey, the Balloon World update added, well, Balloon World, more costumes, and sure, there wasn't any new levels or anything, but Balloon World is surprisingly replayable. Honestly, this is a scam. We shouldn't support having to pay to get little sprinkles of content that should have been included with the base game at launch. I can't decide if this or Jamboree TV is a worse deal, though. But the even worse offender than both of them is Pokémon Legends ZA. Riddle me this, Doug Bowser. How is this PS2 looking liminal space empty world shallow tutorial written game worth $100? Yes, 100, because they released $30 DLC on the exact same day as the original $70 game came out. And from what it just looks like cut story content. Why not just include this in the package at launch? There's no way it took 2 months to develop this. Why make us pay $30 more to finish your already unfinished and unpolished game? Like, how was this delayed for a year to polish? What were the Game Freak devs doing? Playing patty cake the entire time? It makes no sense how these two games cost the same. If you're going to release it like this, at least make it $60 on Switch 2, or even make the upgrade free! What does the Nintendo Switch 2 edition add that makes it $10? The ability to make it run like a modern game instead of looking like a PS1 game? I'm going to stop rambling now because I could go on and on when there's no use, because people who actually paid for this game and like Pokemon have developed in-depth reviews demolishing this game from the inside out. As for third parties, there was a lot this month. Chronos The New Dawn, Daigasa 7 Complete, Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD Remake, FC26, Little Nightmares 3, NBA 2K26, Pac-Man World 2 Repack, Persona 3 Reload, and Star Wars Outlaws all saw game keycard releases this month. I can't believe that none of these are actually physical game cards. Luckily this month, we saw the releases of Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, Yooka-Replay, and Daemon Ex Machina Titanic Skyon? I don't know how to pronounce that. Which are finally, after Cyberpunk, 3 non-keycard physical games from a third party, not including the Switch 2 editions. Speaking of Switch 2 editions, this month we only got Hades 2. In other news, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition was pushed back into 2026 after strong online feedback, as well as the Borderlands 4 port being delayed due to being Borderlands 4. September and October were big months for Switch Online, with a whole 4 games being announced. Mr. Driller, Klonoa Empire of Dreams on Game Boy Advance, Forsaken 64 on Nintendo 64, and Luigi's Mansion on GameCube, finally allowing you to play the entire Luigi's Mansion trilogy on Nintendo Switch 2. However, during the Direct in September, they announced the Virtual Boy was being added to the expansion pack catalog. This is such a strange addition. Like, who asked? This is set to release in February, so I guess we'll have to wait until then to watch this thing fail a second time. How about we move on to something I actually have nice things to say about? So Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment was a game I had almost no excitement for at all. So when the game finally launched, I wasn't really all too excited to try it out. I'd never played a Hyrule Warriors game up to this point. I don't really care much for Zelda lore, and I'm not really a hack and slash kind of guy, but oh my god, this game is so much fun. I don't care all too much about the story, so I won't be mentioning it. So this game is the third take on a Warrior-style game from Nintendo that features The Legend of Zelda, which is a little strange. To me, this series was kind of like a Mario and Rabbids type deal, but I guess not. From what I've heard, the main appeal for Zelda fans is that it tells the tale of Hyrule in between the major Switch games, and alternate timeline stuff, and the Wii U version, and time travel, and whatever. This is far above my intelligence pay grade. I'm not even going to try to understand it. This game, however, takes place before Tears of the Kingdom. Cool. You mainly play as Zelda, with King Rauru and his older sister Minoru sometimes being thrown in there. These characters are obviously wildly different, so it really varies the combat from mission to mission. Zelda plays like your standard default character. Minoru uses her Zonai devices to roll or crush enemies, while Rauru exists. I don't know what he really does differently, except that he feels like he hits stronger. Maybe just a placebo effect. But no matter who you play as, the combat just flows so smoothly, and it is so satisfying to get combos on hordes of enemies, or ride over them with a giant set of wheels. Whether you're just button mashing or carefully attacking, you feel so powerful. The combat just feels extremely polished, and the combos are completely nuts. You have the normal ones, like making your weapons slightly stronger, and then there's shooting a beam of light from your nose and causing the death of millions of Discord mods. The first few bosses aren't really a challenge, so it's pretty easy to plow through the early game, which is all I had time to play. I played a little bit past when you first wage war with Ganon, and then put it down because I'm busy with school. From what I've heard, later in the game, you use more Zonai devices and more abilities and whatnot with the batteries. Okay. For graphics and performance, I'm happy to say that this game runs at a smooth 60 with little to no big frame dips. Sadly, the multiplayer cuts this frame rate in half, but it's not too much of a bother. With the power of the Switch 2, this game looks phenomenal, which it better considering it's Nintendo's largest game to date. Squidward! I don't really have much to comment on in terms of music. It wasn't annoying, and I thought it really helped set the mood. Overall, I had way more fun with this game than I was expecting to, and I might actually go through and beat the main story later. The beating down of waves of enemies after a long day is actually very relaxing. Now, on the contrary, Kirby Air Riders might genuinely be one of my most anticipated video games of 2025. Ever since the first Direct, I was sold. Sakurai is a great salesman. Just the spectacle of seeing the absolutely gorgeous visuals mixed with an even more chaotic city trial mode with buttloads of extra content made me giddy to get my hands on it. This excitement was further propelled when I woke up one day to find out they were planning on doing an exclusive live worldwide demo where I could try out the game early. As soon as it went live, I pounced on it and my first impressions were fantastic. The new city trial was awesome! Air Ride mode no longer felt superfluous to me, and the chaotic nature that I saw from the Direct felt exemplified even further right now that I was in control. I had a blast, and it brought my excitement to new heights. Finally, November 20th came. I ran into GameStop, smashed my money on the counter, and left with pure, unfiltered joy. But no amiibo. We'll get into that later. I went home, popped the game in, and played all day. I'm going to break this down into sections because this game has a ton of content. So we'll start with Air Ride. It's your basic racing mode. It's in the title after all. In all regards, it's a pretty good little party racer. Nothing too deep or innovative in terms of tracks or power-ups, but definitely a fun and intense mode with a high skill ceiling considering the unique way this game controls. However, something with no skill ceiling is Top Ride, which kind of feels pointless. Like, it didn't have a purpose in the original, and it still doesn't here. Everything just feels underbaked. The maps are heavily derived from ones already in the game, and the races are unreasonably short. It just doesn't fit with the rest of the quality product on offer here. My personal theory is they brought it back just to appease the fans of the original who would complain on Twitter if their dumb game mode didn't come back. But anyway, Top Ride is not why you play Kirby Air Ride. You play it for City Trial, and I'm proud to say it's even better experience in Kirby Air Riders. I feel like compared to the original, power-ups and boxes spawn way more often than they ever did in the original, which is great, because now I don't feel like I'm just driving around aimlessly looking for power-ups to collect. This also comes with a new fun feature that you can get your stats so high it goes off the screen. The negative power-ups, however, spawn a lot less from my experience, and even when they did spawn, they're so easy to distinguish from the regular ones, it wasn't really an issue. Another thing, this new map is fantastic. Even though it initially seems smaller than the original map, it feels so much better because the buildings are scaled better, there's an entire underground network of rooms to explore. It just makes every game feel so unique, when this was quite the opposite in the original. Combined with the absolute banger song and the increased intensity of this game, with specials and a higher spawn rate for power-ups, this very well might be better than Mario Kart World for couch multiplayer. My friends seem to think so. Honestly, this mode alone could be its own game. It's so fun. Definitely the highlight of this package. Then besides that, there's Road Trip, which was surprisingly fun even though the trailers made it seem so cheap looking. I had a decent time with it. I'm glad they brought back the overwhelming amount of achievements. This will put food on the table for many people. There's a star customizer which births some cursed things beyond my comprehension. But apparently the bikini was just too much because Nintendo took it down. This is a violation of the Constitution. As for its music, it's heavenly. Just beautiful. But what else is there to say, really? It's not a Mario Kart killer or anything, but the multiplayer is a fun time for everyone and a way better deal than Mario Kart World. Hey, wait a minute. What is this thing? Ah, yes. Alongside the release of the game, Nintendo put out these amiibo with interchangeable stars and characters. Is this pointless? Yeah. Is this overpriced? Absolutely. Does it look cool? Well, kinda. The main gimmick is just pointless if the other amiibo cost this much. This will probably be the first and only Kirby Air Riders amiibo that I buy. Third parties kind of gave it their all the last 2 months, so we only got key cards of Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Goodnight Universe, SpongeBob SquarePants Titans of the Tide, and Yakuza Kiwami 1 and 2, with no Switch 2 editions or standard physical carts this month. But we did get an NES and Game Boy update for Switch Online, so you know what that means. Battletoads, Ninja Gaiden 2, Bionic Commando, and Kid Icarus. Yippee! After 8 years since its reveal, 18 years since Prime 3, we finally got Metroid Prime 4 Beyond this month. And it's okay, I guess, but incredibly disappointing. This is the first Prime game that I've really gotten into, and as a first impression of the series, yeah, this game is really boring, which soured my overall view of the Prime series after hearing how fantastic the other games are. But I'm not going to judge a whole trilogy based on one game. I really hope the other games are more interesting and entertaining. Because in the first 3 hours of playtime, fought some guy, and he opened a dark fountain, went to this alien hangout, explored the jungle for a bit, and then went through the desert to get this electric tower. Nothing feels like it has any rhyme or reason to exist with each other. We're just going from place to random other place. They just feel stapled together with no cohesion. To top it off, the environments are so extremely empty. Maybe that's intentional in some cases to have an eerie aspect to it, but it didn't really feel eerie to me. Instead, like a dreary wasteland that was monotonous to trudge through. There's barely any enemies to fight, so these worlds just feel lifeless instead of abandoned. You pretty much solve the same types of puzzles to open doors, to do more puzzles, to open more doors. There's not a problem with games that have heavy emphasis on puzzle elements. It's just, it needs to feel different and unique, and not just shoving a purple ball into little ditches. All of the rooms are just basic to begin with, containing little amounts of land variation aside from small inclines and declines, and the occasional mole hole to go through. And don't even get me started on Mackenzie. Oh my god, was this character written by a person with more years on their life than brain cells? Millennials. He completely ruins any kind of tense or spooky moment, because he's written like an annoying little child trying to act cool, and he holds your hand with tutorials more than a high school couple that's been dating for 11 minutes. Like, yes, Mackenzie, I understand how to open the map and save my game. Also, dude looks like that one guy from the Polar Express that I hate with a burning passion. He's an addition that makes me hate playing this game. I really hope that he's more minute in the rest of the game, or else I won't bother finishing it. But as for positives, the combat is fantastic. I really like the enemy lock-on and the power you feel charging up a shot and firing. It was really responsive and satisfying, but this probably applies to all of the previous games. But I digress. Both the Switch 1 and 2 versions look straight up fantastic in the complicated areas. Now, it's no Cyberpunk, but it still feels realistic and gritty. The soundtrack was pretty good. No complaints there. I like how the ball controls. I was always a guy who liked those marble games or the Mercury Meltdown games. So overall, this game kind of feels like a nothing burger. Its landscapes are pretty lookers, but dull and empty in practice. However, this is probably the best a shooter game with dual analog sticks has felt to me. Not really hooked on this one, and it really didn't feel like a teen-rated game, but it was still an okay time, if not extremely disappointing considering the time we had to wait for it. Play this if you're, I don't know, hungover or something. You might actually enjoy it. That's all of Nintendo's selection they had to offer this year, but third parties went out with a bang. We got a Switch 2 version of Red Dead Redemption, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Octopath Traveler 0, and finally, a Switch 2 edition of Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, closing out the year with some fantastic games. Switch Online continues the trend of good games with Wario World for GameCube. I really wanted an excuse to play this, so I might actually make a standalone video about it at some point. Then the N64 got Rayman 2 and Tonic Trouble, giving way to some rumors that Super Smash Bros. Might get added to the N64 app. And like, sure, they might do that, but I'll believe it when I see it. So that was a look at the Nintendo Switch 2 6 months into its release. And honestly, we've gotten some banger games, and some more lukewarm ones, which is crazy considering how short of a time frame it's been. But the future looks bright too, with Switch 2 versions of Animal Crossing New Horizons and Super Mario Bros. Wonder, as well as Mario Tennis Fever, Pokemon Pokopia, a new Fire Emblem, a new Yoshi game, Splatoon Raiders, and Tomodachi Life and Rhythm Heaven coming to Switch 1. Hopefully Nintendo can keep up this stream of games, considering the nearly 11 million consoles they sold in such a short time frame. Really hoping we get a 2D or 3D Mario game next year. Maybe something new from Kirby or Zelda. Only time will tell. But I think we have something big on the horizon. Or, you know, knowing this company, we'll probably get Welcome Tour 2, Welcome to Tour.